So our final speaker before dinner is Chirine Wadsworth, another really good friend of mine, and an amazing mother of 13 homeschooled children, and grandma of 11. She operates a family business called Alpine Food Storage, and over the course of many years of searching for answers to customers' questions, she has learned a thing or two about food storage. And she's more than a thing or two. She knows a lot. So I've asked her to come and give you just a little bit of information on how you can do better with your food storage rather than spending a lot of money and not getting a lot of return. So please welcome Chirine Wadsworth.
I'll get started and just kind of tell you maybe a little bit of the basics, because everybody says, how do I start my food storage? So I really don't give a whole list of you have to have this many of this and this many of that and this many of the other. Really, I kind of give you a few guidelines, and I would hope that you would take it home and do what works for you and your family. And I like to help people do that, and I'm open to, this is part of what we do at our place, is I will sit down with people and just, for their family, help them figure things out, help get them a plan put together, and pretty soon it comes together really. I mean, if you store a little bit of, here and there, it does come together very quickly. 450 pounds of grains per person per year has kind of been over the course of the last many times, has been kind of what they recommend. Grains includes all grains. So that doesn't mean 450 pounds of wheat in your basement you have no clue what to do with. It means if you eat rice and beans, then store 450 pounds of rice, or maybe put some oats in there, because oats are easy to use, and think about what the grains you do use and put 450 pounds together per person per year. The next one is a little bit more difficult because it's changed a lot. It used to be 350 pounds of beans or legumes per person per year. It's gone, I've seen it go to like 60. So you got to pick a happy number in there. If you eat a lot of beans, rice and beans, think about how many cultures in this world survive off of rice and beans. That's easy. We mostly know how to do that. So rice and beans is a very easy thing to survive off of for quite some time. It is a complete protein when put together, and so that works very well. The other thing that people always ask me is like, how much dairy, how much milk? I'll help you figure that out if you tell me how much milk you drink in a week. I don't want to have you storing 5 gallons of milk a week if you're only drinking a half gallon of milk a week. So we figure that out by how much you're actually using. The other one I would highly recommend is the oils. 3 gallons per person per year of oils is a very good start for oils. Again, all of these I'm telling you are really kind of survival food. It's really kind of, you're not going to live great, but you'll survive. You won't starve. But after that, I recommend spices and herbs and bouillons to sort of happy all that stuff up a little bit. Salt and honey, yes. What you need to make bread. Think about if you make bread, what do you need to make bread? In my little mind, if we go back to pioneer days, we can survive off of the land in the summertime if we can plant a garden. We can live off of the land, and as long as we have bread, we kind of have to have, and by bread I don't mean bread, I mean tortillas or muffins or cookies or pancakes or waffles or you name it, whatever you can make. You don't have to make a beautiful loaf of bread to be eating bread, okay? Flat bread if you choose, pita bread, whatever you'd like, you can make something bready to go with your vegetables in your garden, and you can survive quite happily in the summer. And in the wintertime, we make soup. We make soup and we eat bread. And in my mind, I think the pioneers, I was a huge fan of the Little House series growing up, and my kids are now watching it again. But I listened and watched, and I'm not gonna go salt a pork and have it hanging in my rafters. But they did, they put the big pot out in front of on the fire, right? And they just, whatever they had went in the pot, and it was called soup. And you ate it, and you had cornmeal mush to go with it, or cornbread, or corn something, because they had a lot of corn back then. So it's very simple. Do we need really fancy ways to cook things? I don't feel like we do. I think if we have some firewood and a Dutch oven, I'm thinking back into the pioneers, we can cook. So keep it simple. The ideal way to start a food storage, it goes a step beyond what I just told you, is to start by when you go to the grocery store, buy twice as much of what you're purchasing that day and put half of it away. So that you'll have a 3-month or 6-month supply of the food that you actually enjoy eating. Don't sweat too much about expiration dates. Don't throw rotten eggs at me. Don't sweat too much about expiration dates. Things do go well beyond their expiration date sometimes. How many of you here, by raise of hand, would open a fizzling, stinky can of something and eat it? I thought you were all smarter than that. So if you open a can and it looks fine and it smells fine and it tastes fine, it's fine. You can eat it. If you really are worried about things that you can't smell, like salmonella, boil it. Bring it to a boil. If it's meat, bring it to a boil. You'll kill all the salmonella. If it's peaches that have been sitting on your shelf since Grandma gave them to you, put them in a pie or make a compote or something like that. Bring them to heat, put some heat on them, and you'll kill anything that might be in there that you cannot smell or taste. Okay? So no sweat here on expiration dates. If you pop it open and it stinks, or it's got a green layer on it, or it fizzles, or whatever, your can is bulging and spilling all over the shelf, you're smart enough to throw that away, right? So, okay, I'm open to questions. That was kind of my, little initial spiel. Yes, please.
So we're talking about work survival skills, and you're talking about beans and rice, and you need to cook those things. And what if there's no power?
Okay.
You don't have a wood source.
Okay. Without a wood source, I gather there's going to be some kind of fuel you can burn. I'm assuming there's going to be some kind of fuel you can burn. I would recommend, rice is easy, especially if you're storing white rice. Let me do a little quick aside. Don't let me not answer your question. Who here has heard you cannot store brown rice? I should see some hands. Don't store brown rice.
I heard differently. Yeah, but we know you're smarter than that.
So right from the very beginning, I asked that question, and I was told time and time and time again, people that should store brown rice, but they wanted the nutrients of brown rice, and it went a little rancid. Well, guess what they did? They rinsed it in hot water, and the rancidity went away. So they still had the nutrients of brown rice in a perfectly edible rice, okay? There are other things out there. Parboiled rice is a great alternative but when it's whole rice with the outer bran still on it, they steam it, drive the nutrients into the white part, and then they hull it. So you have a white rice that has the nutrients of brown rice. So that's another really good option if you don't want to store brown rice. But there's so many lovely brown rices out there and white rices, and so store what you want to eat because it is very storable. Now, on the beans, so rice cooks up fairly quickly. White rice does. Brown rice takes a little bit longer. On the beans, I highly recommend, who here has a Instapot? Who here has used their Instapot to cook beans? Who here will not go back and buy a can of beans because you used your Instapot to cook beans? Okay? I'm going to tell you right now, you won't go back to buying canned beans if you have an Instapot and cook your own beans. Now, if the power goes out and you can't plug your Instapot in, but you do have a little bit of firewood, you can use a stovetop pressure cooker. Okay? So the Instapots are cheaper. Find out that you love it by using the Instapot and decide how, I think I'm going to, make the investment and buy the stovetop pressure cooker. And you can then, with a very little heat, you can bring a pressure cooker to pressure, and with extremely little heat, you can keep it at pressure for as long as you need to cook your beans. Plus, it might be the only way to soften those 30-year-old beans. I'm just saying, okay?
What about a
Sun oven, I did ask that question way back when, and I have never brought sun ovens in because of the answer that I got. They're super fun. I'm not saying don't get one and have a lot of fun with it, but it's really ideal for August. If it's cloudy and you want to eat, I'm sorry. Basically, you have to have sun for a sun oven, okay? And it takes a really long amount of time. This is what I've learned from, I haven't used one, so I can't tell you that to refute all that. But if it happens to be cloudy, or there was just an earthquake and there's a lot of particles in the air, you're not getting your sunlight, whatever it is, I wouldn't want to rely on a sun oven. Nice to have if you've got one, great, have fun with it, make cookies. You can bake bread in them. I've heard people bake bread in them. It does take a really long time because there's not a lot of energy. What's that?
I said there's a booth out there
About sun ovens? So maybe they should educate me because I might learn some things that I didn't know. I asked the question way back when and haven't gone back to it, so they should probably educate me.
Look up Kelly kettles. Do you have Kelly kettles?
No, tell me about them.
Kelly kettles are awesome. So you just get little it's like a kettle.
Is it like the rocket stove?
Hole in the bottom.
Okay.
It has a little thing in the bottom where you put all of your stuff in and light it, like twigs, pine needles.
Yeah.
Light it and it boils your water in like 3 minutes.
So the rocket stove is the other one that I know of. I don't have one, but I know that does kind of the same thing. It funnels the heat. You put a very little bit at the bottom. Ooh, sorry. And it funnels the heat.
And it boils the water, and then
Yeah.
you pour that onto your food and wrap blankets around
Okay,
the pot
yeah,
to
yeah, that works
help
too.
keep.
Okay, yeah, that works too. Yes.
How do you make beans like barbacoa and they don't make you sick? Do you know what I mean? Like bloated with gas.
Get used to eating beans. Have you tried it? Have you eaten them and gotten uncomfortable and eaten them again? So I know people say, who here will help me out? Baking soda I think helps. To put baking soda in the water does help with the gassy.
I said barbacoa beans from barbacoa. No problem. I don't know what they do.
They're possibly canned beans.
I make what I call a bean stock. It's like a starter. So I'll soak up some beans, and sometimes I'll add some whey to it.
Okay.
And I rinse that out and I save it, and I use it for the next set of beans.
And that helps to cut down. So she says she soaks her beans and adds some whey to it, uses that same water in the next batch of beans, and that helps to break down the gases. So probably the fermentation with the whey is going to help to break that down some. Yes?
Somebody said add some vinegar too.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. And really, if you my experience is at first I got uncomfortable with beans, and the more we ate them, the more that just went away. And my whole family can eat beans now and not have any problem. So it might just be a matter of getting used to having the gut get used to it.
And you actually want that nutrition.
You want the nutrition, right? You want your gut to be so healthy that it'll take that kind of stuff and not get sick. Yeah. Yes, go ahead.
What's the nutritional shelf life of beans?
Forever.
Yes. So beans is a little tricky. Yes, Michelle's right. Kind of forever as long as you can soften them, because over time they do get to the point where you can't soften them without a pressure cooker or something similar.
Grind them.
You can grind them. That's right. You could grind them and add them into soups ground that way. Yeah. Go ahead.
What long-term storage do you have for people who are like allergic to gluten or dairy? Right?
Okay. Excellent question. Okay, sorry, she asked, what long-term storage do you suggest for people who are gluten or dairy intolerant or allergic to gluten or dairy? So there are a lot of gluten-free grains. If you're severely celiac, I would do that. There is a whole other class, that is making the naturally leavened bread that actually really helps people digest the wheat when you use natural leavening, or a sourdough starter, which I don't like to call it because it doesn't have to be sour. But you use natural leavening, it raises for a much longer amount of time, it breaks down the stuff your tummy can't handle, and you can eat the bread. We sell the Abigail's bread at our place. So many people come in and tell me, and I make it myself in the kitchen. I don't make theirs, but I make this very similar for my kids. So many people tell me, I can't eat bread, but I can eat that bread. And it's because they use, number one, a very chemical-free wheat that is not bromated, bleached, enriched, or fortified for their flour. So they have a fantastic flour that we do carry. And I love it. Sourdough loves it, or natural leavening absolutely loves it. And they do this natural leavening. So both of those things put together, I think oftentimes our intolerances, not so much from dairy, well, a little bit maybe, our intolerances come from the pesticides that they're spraying and not so much from the gluten. So either train your body now by using the natural leavening to be okay with it, or store. Rice is totally gluten-free. Oats are technically gluten-free. So those are two grains that most people know what to do with. But then you've got millet, and you've got, there's so many gluten-free grains out there. Dairy-free is a little bit trickier. Really, we only drink dairy technically for the calcium. By the time we drink it, the A and D is pretty much gone. So calcium is where we're, so find something else to put in your storage that is higher in calcium so that you get the calcium. I know that there's powdered coconut milks out there. Mostly they're based with maltodextrin, and not great. I'm trying to find someone that'll do a coconut milk just straight without adding, additives. You can store almonds in your freezer and make almond milk. And if the freezer goes out, it's okay too, because almonds aren't going to die the next day. They're going to give you another year before they actually go bad. So store almonds in a freezer is a good idea. Make almond milk.
And improve gut health.
Yes, probiotics. Yes, and the bread does improve gut health. Yes.
And people are also able to make soups that's not
True that. Yeah. Yep.
You can use dried coconut flakes.
You can make nut meals in the pressure cooker, nut milks in the pressure cooker, she's saying, too. I know most people do them raw, but yes. I had a hand. Yep, go ahead.
I eat specifically paleo AIP, which means no grains, no rice, no beans. So if I want to maintain that, what are your suggestions?
Lots of freeze-dried fruits and vegetables. Paleo. If she's paleo, so remind me, paleo is no grains, no beans.
Meats and vegetables is all.
No, you said the third thing. No dairy.
Well, no rice.
So no grains, no beans.
No grains, and then AIP is no beans, so anything that's autoimmune protocol, which means no legumes, anything inflammatory. McBride's I know things have to be soaked, and then also is no nightshades, so no peppers.
No nightshades. Okay. So I would take, so freeze-dried is an excellent option for what you can eat. There is a lot of really good freeze-dried meat out there too. And we do sell, I think like whipping cream and things like that are kind of part of the diet, yes. We do sell a totally shelf-stable Gosner whipping cream, totally shelf-stable for up to 4 years. Real liquid cream, and so you put that on the shelf and have some of the things that you are used to, having in your diet. Good question, yeah.
Have you eaten freeze-dried meat, and how does it taste?
It's fantastic. Freeze-dried meat is fantastic. I have eaten it, not lately, but more like 15 years ago. We actually did a fair. They brought some in to sample. They soaked it. They had us eating it. It is the best way to store meat by far and away. The nutrients are all there. They had some raw that they cooked and then served. They had some already cooked that they'd freeze-dried. It was fabulous.
And do you do classes on natural leavening?
I need to.
Okay.
But I'm happy to teach you one-on-one. That's what I'm doing right now because I don't have time for classes. Yes, go ahead.
What's your favorite way to store farm fresh meats?
We bring in right now an organic, freeze-dried, cage-free, yes. Oh, I'm sorry, the question. The best way to store farm fresh eggs. And we do bring in right now a freeze-dried. Freeze-dried is an amazing, amazing way to store things because do we all know the difference between freeze-dried and dehydrated? Should I go into that for 2 minutes real quick? Freeze-dried, you take the product and you freeze it, it holds its shape, and you vacuum the water out of it. Okay? In a vacuum, the water comes out, and so you're left with a porous, like a little sponge thing. Dehydrated, you put it in there and it gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller, shriveled up and gets really, really tight, and all the water comes out of it, yes. And then to rehydrate that is a little bit more difficult. And you lose nutrients. The freeze-dried, because it's frozen, the nutrients are kind of locked in, and then they vacuum the water out. So not that dehydrated is a bad option. Dehydrated vegetables actually do quite well, and you can rehydrate those very quickly. For fruit, dried fruit doesn't last nearly as long as freeze-dried fruit does, and the freeze-dried you can do with meat. You cannot do that. You can't really. I guess you could do some jerky, but to get really the meat that you're expecting to get, not in a TVP or something, freeze-dried is phenomenal. So we have a freeze-dried, organic egg that comes from Shepherd's right down here in. What do they take? Payson area, Spanish Fork. That.
We have chickens,
So you would eat them. Yes, if you knew somebody with a freeze dryer, you could scramble those and freeze them and save them forever. Otherwise, let me tell you a little story. When I got married, my husband is the baby of 11 children. His mother is my grandmother's age, so we're kind of a generation off. I was handed. She had passed away many, many, many years before he was 7 when she passed away. I was handed her little cookbook. That no cover. I have no idea what it is. There's no cover, and there's nothing on every page that says what this cookbook was. But there's this little cookbook right here, and it's just brown and it's speckled in certain places. So you want to go to those pages because she made something delicious on that page. But I kind of I was just thumbing through it one day, and it says in the egg section there, never leave your eggs on the counter for more than 3 weeks. And I went, what? You mean I don't have to put those in my fridge? And because by then I had a few children and we had a lot of food in the fridge and the fridge space was at a premium. I pulled my eggs out of the fridge that day and have never put them back. So
That's only true if you don't wash them.
Yeah, there
I do that.
leave them out for 6 months.
Yes. So if you've got your own chickens, that's what I'm saying. You can leave eggs out for a very long time. If you have your own chickens, rotate through them every 6 months if you can, but save some. And put them on the shelf down there. Again, if you crack it open and it stinks, you're going to really got a bad egg. So don't worry about it. You know what I'm saying? But really, truly, I think eggs are very, very shelf stable. So yes, go ahead.
Do eggs store better if we don't wash them first?
That's what they were just saying. Yes, they said don't. No. You couldn't hear the comment. Yes, that works. So the 3 weeks works great for the store-bought eggs. But if you want to store it even longer, don't wash your eggs, and they will go much longer. Yes. Yes.
I'm just thinking about canning, and I want to start doing that.
Yeah.
That being said, we don't use organic sugar at our house, so I wanted to use like honey.
Yes.
Is there recipes that make that easy?
I don't know about recipes. I've just swapped it out and just kind of guesstimated. I'm not a extension service canner. I've got to tell you right now. I'm going to admit I don't go to the extension service because I started canning and I understand the concepts now. I don't try to stay within the box. So right now I'm telling people that can't find lids, reuse your lids. And I've had people come down on me and say, don't do that. The extension service says you can't do that. You can. It works. Not 100% maybe, but if you have 1 or 2 jars that don't seal, throw them in your fridge. Use them first. Yes. So for canning, I would say yes, you absolutely can do without sugar. It won't be as pretty. Your honey will make it darker. Your maybe coconut sugar. I use coconut sugar in some things. It'll make it darker. Agave. But I have stored pears and peaches with no sugar, and they do fine. They have enough sugar in themselves that I just pour the hot water over it. And really, I've done it without syrup. No syrup. Just water. So there are ways to do it, and sometimes we have to make mistakes, and we learn from our mistakes. So do a small batch, see if it worked, and then do it again. And probably you can find nowadays. You can probably find recipes all over Google. I just haven't. I don't know where they are. Yes, I'm going to come this way. Sorry, I'm not looking over here. If there's somebody over here, let me get hers, and then I'll grab yours.
With canning, the canning instructions don't always tell you, but we're at a very, very high altitude.
Yeah, we are.
So when you do a water bath, it has to be a lot longer than what they're telling you often. So especially in fall, some of those, make sure you look for high altitude. Because, for instance, if peaches are supposed to be like 25 minutes, here at this altitude, you have to water bath for about 40.
Okay.
45.
Okay.
So otherwise, you're not killing everything and it won't last as long. So make sure you look for high altitude.
Okay. And I'll be completely honest. I didn't know that, and I've been canning for many years at the regular time, and everything is sealed and we've eaten it. But to be safe, to be absolutely safe, yeah.
Because it can last for a good 10 years if you have the increased amount of that. It won't brown, it won't soak.
So you'll get optimum performance. Yeah. Give me a second. Let me get over here.
How long does oil last?
Okay. Excellent question. I didn't cover that. So my two favorite oils are coconut oil, because it really does last kind of forever. If you get a really good high grade, you know where it came from. They didn't mix it with canola or soy or something else and tell you that it's 100% coconut oil. The coconut oil will last for a very, very I haven't seen it go bad long time. Okay? Do you have a similar question? Or are you trying to comment? Yes, go ahead. So, extra virgin olive oil was my next one. The second one is extra virgin olive oil if it is stored in a tin. No light, no air, no rancidity. For 15, I've opened them 15 years old and they've been fine. So olive oil in a glass gets light. In plastic, it gets light and air, because plastic is not quite airtight. So no light, no air in a tin, your olive oil really does go like, if you get, again, this is a really important one, because so many of the olive oils are laced with others and they don't have to say it. So make sure you know your source for the olive oil. If it's not a little spendy, it probably isn't all olive oil, but make sure it's 100% olive oil, because canola will go bad really fast. And they usually I shouldn't say lace, they mix it, and they don't really have to say it. They can say 100% olive oil, and the government has all these loopholes that it is allowed to be 60% canola and still say 100% olive. So, yes. What's that? I do have it in the tin cans, and we lab test it. We have it lab tested. Yeah.
What's another good resource for virgin oil? Because I do my best to try to get organic oil.
Stand up so we can hear them.
She's asking another really good resource for virgin oils. And I'll be completely honest, I know olive oil and I know coconut oil, and those are the ones that we sell at our place. People ask me all the time for avocado oil. I don't have a source for it, so I don't have an answer to that question right now. But if you can find any oil in a tin, it should have that. I would think it would have that same rule that it shouldn't go bad. I know I buy sesame oil in a tin. I don't use a lot of sesame oil. I have it, it's tucked back there and it's probably 10 years old and it still tastes fantastic. So oil in a tin is a good idea. Coconut oil is not only so good for you, but it lasts a long time. It also makes your food like fantastic. It's really light and crisp and amazing.
You say like 20 years or
Yes, I would say 20 or 30. I mean, seriously, I have not seen it go bad. I would tell you the story behind how I figured out coconut oil, but she's telling me I'm done. So, one more quick question.
I just want to share something. When you're talking about candy lids, stand up just.
And I'll try to reiterate it here.
If you're talking about the candy lids, just regular ball and curve, whatever. I use my candy lids 4, 5, 6 times for over 30, 40 years.
Thank you for backing me up on that one. I've been telling people that and they look at me like I'm from Mars. Like, no, think outside the box right now. We can't get canning lids. Please just think for yourselves. We have to think outside. I mean, look for the ones that don't have the deep, deep ruts in them, right? Where they really got sucked in tight, because that might shift and not give you. But there's often have to come off completely flat. Use them again. I'm going to close just so that you guys can go to dinner, but I will stand back here and answer any other questions anybody wants to come out with me with. I'm happy to stay until all the questions are answered, okay?